This is my first coffee in over a month, and I'm a bit worried because unlike other people who go without coffee for a while, I really didn't suffer that much without it. I didn't have any withdrawals, I didn't feel exhausted, no headache, no missing the taste. I went into this not because I wanted to deprive myself of coffee and see how I feel because that's what I read somewhere, but because I found that matcha has some really amazing benefits that I wanted to try and I wanted to commit to fully. So I wanted to leave out coffee, go for matcha and more water and see how that made me feel. So for me, this didn't feel like a deprivation, and in turn, I didn't suffer. In the beginning, I would substitute coffee with matcha 1-for-1. So in the morning when I was groggy and in the afternoon after that slump, I would have a matcha just to pick me up. But the way that matcha works is that it raises your energy much more slow and steady. It's not like coffee where it just goes up and down. And so I had to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't instantly negate my natural slumps and in energy. And I would have to get used to those peaks and those falls and the way that just the body naturally works. So I started positioning my active hours and my resting hours to where they naturally fell. But of course, this doesn't always work, especially with work life. If you have something to complete and it just has a deadline, you cannot rest if your body tells you to rest. So there were times when I would have a matcha exactly to have that working time until 3 in the morning to finish a video, to finish writing something. And that way it worked much more because I wasn't using it all the time to negate those slumps. I was using it sometimes, but then especially when I wanted to get to those 100% and achieve something. I would also like to talk about the physical changes that went on, and I have to mention that I'm not great at noticing bodily changes instantly, especially if I don't know what I'm looking for, because there was nothing acute like a headache or withdrawal symptoms. I didn't notice anything for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was talking to other people asking if they noticed anything, and something came up when I talked to my friend Irene. Hi Irene, if you're watching, Irene is a nurse and she said that she doesn't have coffee because of heart palpitations. And I had to check what that is. I had no idea what is heart palpitations, but it is irregular beating of the heart. So something that you would definitely feel in your chest. And I thought about it and I haven't had those. I haven't had those since my last cup of coffee, and I felt really good about it because many times they would make me not hyper, not excited, not energetic, but sluggish. And at the same time, my heart would beat fast. And talking to other people, I kept hearing this again and again. So I started looking for it much more and I started following that clue. And I also came across anxiety. Was I feeling as much anxiety as it was before? I don't think so. I think I wasn't as stressed and reactive to the factors around me, but then again, stress is relative. The heart palpitations are yes or no, and they were definitely not there. So this is one of the reasons why I'm nervous about this, is because I felt really good about it, and I am looking forward to a life where I drink a little bit less coffee, or I substitute it with other drinks that I'm going to share with you on Instagram. But I'm not really craving it. There were some things that I did notice other than that. For example, it wasn't as easy to go to the bathroom. I might have to find a solution for that. And there was a thing with dehydration. So I love the taste of coffee. This tasted not as good as I remember it, but I was feeling dehydrated because I love the taste of coffee so much that whenever I was thirsty, I would have a coffee, and I was drinking not enough water by far. So since drinking matcha and water, I realized how much water I was missing, and coffee is of course not a great way to hydrate yourself. So this is a very positive change on my skin and the way that I feel altogether. And I'm really thankful for my watch that reminds me to drink water every 20 minutes. I don't know if this would be possible otherwise, but other than those two changes, I didn't notice anything much. I went to other people to ask how they felt about coffee. I came across my mom, of all people, who I have judged my whole life because she drinks half of an espresso in the morning, leaves it for the whole day on the counter for all the flies to drown in, and then has the rest of it in the afternoon. So I thought that was weird. But she said to me, hey, I have experimented with this for longer than you have, and I noticed I had the same problem, but I needed it for the positive benefits, bathroom in the morning, energy, and what my body could fairly handle and work on was half an espresso in the morning and the other half in the evening, and that's it. I found out that with coffee and with some other things, you really have to listen to your body, and I'm gonna talk to you about the science of coffee in a moment. Should you or should you not have it? The reality of it is that it's one of those things where it's not yes or no, definitively. It's where some people have adverse effects that are not worth the good effects, and some people have no adverse effects and all of the benefits are totally worth it. But it is absolutely up to you. I really want to give some scientific perspective on why coffee is not just good or bad and why it depends who you are. So coffee beans are seeds that are incredibly healthy, just like all seeds. If you take chia or flax, you may know that they have many benefits for the body. And when we turn them into a beverage, not a lot of that is lost, a lot of it remains. And with coffee, this could lead to improved artery function and protection against different diseases and even colon cancer and other types of cancers. But it depends on how we metabolize it and what our body does with this coffee to see how many of these benefits we're going to get. There are two types of metabolizers, slow and fast, and the fast metabolizers get an adrenaline spike, but they are very quickly done with it. The caffeine is further in the system and they don't feel any irregular heart rhythms, they don't feel any jitters. And the slow metabolizers, they cannot get that adrenaline spike down so fast, and they feel those jitters and they feel those irregular rhythms, although it was not proven and recently maybe disproven actually that the heart palpitations are not just a sensation. So if you're interested, check in the description. But there are other factors which coffee's benefits depend on. For example, how the coffee beans are roasted. You know, if you put a broccoli for 40 minutes in the oven, a lot of the vitamins will die and it will not be as nutritious. So the same thing with coffee. If you roast it for too long, some of the nutrients will die and you will not get the benefits. So blonde roast is better than the darker roast. And it also depends on what you put in it. So if you put dairy milk in a latte, for example, you could kill up to 95% of the phytogenic acids that are very good for the body. They get metabolized in the lower intestine and then they could bind to some of the proteins of the milk. This doesn't apply to any non-dairy plant-based milks, but with this milk it just binds to the enzyme and our bacteria cannot help us get those positive benefits from the phytogenic acids. So don't put a lot of milk and don't get a too dark roast. If you want to get similar effects but better, for longer, easier on your body, you should go to tea, especially matcha, because it has this slow burn energy that we talked about. It has a lot of antioxidants, can keep you young. As we know, free radicals are something that can cause cancer, can cause all kinds of inflammation, and antioxidants are good against that. So having as small as 3 grams of matcha in your water essentially could have a lot of antioxidants already and all of those positive benefits. But thanks to L-theanine, which is a compound in tea, there will not be this spike in adrenaline. You will not get those uncomfortable feelings that we get from coffee. So that could be something that you could try as well. Also, another thing that I wanted to mention is that decaf coffee has lost a lot of other nutrients as well. So if you think that drinking decaf coffee, because the caffeine will be the one essentially causing the adrenaline spike and the uncomfortable feelings, is going to be better, you're going to get a lot less of the benefits of coffee. So at that point, it might be better to switch to tea altogether. I would like to invite you to make a coffee challenge, and I would suggest that at best it is if you leave coffee out completely, if you have one of those drinks that I will be suggesting, if you have matcha, if you have water, if you have tea, or if you have 1 cup of coffee or less per day. But I would advise you, if you really want to see what happens, to have none for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks for me to notice anything. Remember, sometimes you have to be patient, but I think in the long run, it was really worth it to make all of these discoveries for me. So I really invite you to try this out for yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram. Feel free to write a comment and talk to other people in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video.